Hey all, I know I've got a glare coming off of this, so it's kind of hard to see, but growing up in Montana, this is an aerial view of our house in southwest Montana on the ranch that I grew up on. The reason I show you this picture is if you look at this window right here on the second floor, the one closest to that basket there, I used to use that window all the time to leave the house. It was a shortcut. You know, I'd climb out the window and lower myself using the basket onto the concrete below, and it was a shortcut to get to wherever I was ever wanting to go. My sister and I did that all the time. So we were really big on shortcuts. So what has that got to do with this video? Shortcuts. I'm all about shortcuts as long as you understand why shortcuts work the way they work. In this case, we're going to solve a nonlinear inequality in one variable with three factors in it, okay? And if you've been watching parts 1 and 2 of my solving nonlinear inequalities in one variable, you've seen that I used a couple shortcuts. But in those, I use shortcuts with only 2 of them, okay? I'm going to show you one with 3. Alright, well, if you've been watching parts 1 and 2, you saw that I used some what I call tipping points. Basically, what makes these guys go to 0? That'll be 2, right? X minus 2 equals 0, so solve for x equals 2. This would be a negative 1. X plus 1 equals 0, solve for x, you get x equals negative 1, and this guy would be at negative 5, right? So, my intervals are going to be between negative infinity and negative 5, with a bracket on the negative 5, right, because it's less than or equal to. And then from negative 5 to negative 1, whoops, bracket there. And then bracket from negative 1 to 2. And then bracket from 2 to infinity. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. You could test all those intervals if you really want to. I probably will, just to show you that the shortcut I'm about to show you will work the way it works. But here's the deal. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find the interval that has 0 in it, okay? That's this guy right here. And I'll test just that interval for now. So I'm going to test x equals 0. I'll plug it in here. 0 is an easy one to work with. 0 minus 2 times 0 plus 1 times 0 plus 5. Is that going to be less than or equal to 0? Well, that's negative 2 times 1 times 5, trying to be less than or equal to 0. And that's a negative 10, trying to be less than or equal to 0, so that's true. Which means that guy's going to be in the answer. Here's where the shortcut comes in, okay? Now, if you watch part 3 of the videos of my nonlinear inequalities, solving for nonlinear inequalities in one variable, if you watch part 3, I mentioned that shortcuts will not work if any of your factors get raised to a power other than 1. So if I had like x minus 2 quantities squared, for example, all bets are off when it comes to shortcuts. But in this case, I've got 3 factors. All of them are getting raised to the first power, okay? Which makes it eligible for a shortcut here. And here's what that shortcut is. They're going to alternate. So the interval between negative 1 and 2 worked, which means either interval next to them will not. So I've got false, true, false. How about this guy? You guessed it. It's going to be true. So that's going to be my answer, as it turns out. It's going to be this interval with a union sign and then this interval. Okay? So negative infinity, negative 5 with a bracket on the negative 5, parentheses on the negative infinity, union, bracket, negative 1 to 2, bracket. All right. You don't believe me. All right. This is for you skeptics out there. Let's test them and see. Let's test x equals negative 6. That's within this negative infinity to negative 5. So I'll do this real quick. Negative 6 minus 2 times negative 6 plus 1 times negative 6 plus 5. All that trying to be less than or equal to 0. Well, that's negative 8 times a negative 5 times a negative 1. All trying to be less than or equal to 0. Negative times a negative is a negative, so that's negative 40, which is less than or equal to 0, so that's true. See, told you. Let's test this interval. I'm kind of running out of real estate here, but let's test x equals -2 maybe. So, not -2. Yeah, -2 works. -2 minus 2 times -2 plus 1 times -2 plus 5. Is all that going to be less than or equal to 0? Well, that's -4 times -1 times +3, all trying to be less than or equal to 0. Negative times a negative times a positive is a positive. So that's going to be positive 12 trying to be less than or equal to 0. No, it's not. So it's false. See? That's why that one's out. Last interval, let's see why that didn't work. We'll test x equals 3. So 3 minus 2 times 3 plus 1 times 3 plus 5, trying to be less than or equal to 0. That's 1 times 4 times 9, 8, trying to be less than or equal to 0. That's 32, which is not less than or equal to 0. So that's false. There you go. So the shortcut, the nice thing about the shortcut here is that all I had to really test was just the one interval, not 1, 2, 3, 4 intervals. Now again, if you're going to take a math course that's higher than 1010 or even Math 1010, the minute you see a factor, and by 1010 I mean intermediate algebra and the college level, and 1050 is college algebra, the minute you see a factor that's raised more than a power of 1, all bets are off for shortcuts, okay? No more shortcuts. It'd be like that roof being too high off the ground for me to make that jump to do that shortcut.